How can you explain the urgency of your solutions in your pitch deck story? Let's find out. Now let's talk about urgency. In some cases, you need to add more details to convey the urgency of your solutions. You want to help your audience focus by showing them why it's urgent to address their current state now. Now, many people call this the why now slide. Now, if you're talking to buyers, you need to convey why they need to buy now. What is the urgent need for your solution right now? And if you're talking to investors or lending institutions, you need to let them know why this is a good time to invest in your solutions. What are the market trends that demonstrate the need for your solutions? And of course, that can also work if you're getting internal funding. Why is it a good time to fund your particular project right now? Now, you'll find many templates on the market that have this layout. It's called the Why Now slide, and you can add 1, 2, or more reasons. So you can see they're already giving you the framework. You can call it reason, or you can give it a title. I always say use the real estate more wisely. Try to use every sentence, every word more strategically rather than just labels. The same thing with this one. It could be sometimes called timing, not necessarily why now. So you can see here you've got the framework where you have room to write a title, and you have room to write 2 extra supporting details. You might also find slides like this one here where it gives you 3 placeholders. So you get to decide how many statements you need. In some cases like this one, you can see here they're using it as a question. Now, these are all commercial templates, so they're more like placeholders. You don't necessarily have to put the questions, because I don't think a slide like this would be needed. Why do we need Modern Communication Company? You can see it's just more like a placeholder, because ideally you can add that to your problem slide. But I just wanted to show you the different options, because you will be seeing these templates on the market, and now you know how to use them. So use them as a guide, not necessarily from a content perspective, more from a layout perspective. Now, of course, you don't need 2 slides to convey the urgency. You can say that on the same slide. So you can find that some frameworks do prompt you to answer both questions on one slide, like this one here. So you've got the problem on the left and the why now on the right. So you can just keep it simple for now when you're starting. You don't have to make it too fancy. Just jot down the first details that come to mind, and you can jazz it up later as you start fine-tuning your slides. Now, another common framework you can use is like this one here, where you get to answer the questions: what, describe the problem you are solving, why is it important to solve this problem, which is what we talked about in the previous video. And now you see the third section is why now. So rather than the framing, they're kind of using the urgency on the same slide. So let's see how that might look. This is a simulated slide, so let's take a look of how you might use that. You can see here the top, so rather than calling it problem, we're using the real estate wisely. You can use it to statement to set the tone for your slide. So new businesses need help communicating their value. And then the second statement, poor communication skills leads to missed sales and business opportunities. So this is kind of the context if they don't act now. And then, so why is this urgent now? Well, more people are embracing the entrepreneurial path, making it more challenging to stand out. So as more people become now entrepreneurs and having businesses, you need to be a little bit louder to get attention in the marketplace. So if you take a closer look at the slide, you'll notice that we're answering the 3 questions. What? So the statement at the top, why is this a problem? And why do you need to address that now? Now, going back to this example that we looked at from the previous video on the PhilConnect, and moving dirt is costly and harmful to the environment. So in this particular case, this company is trying to solve 2 things: the issue of cost and also the environment. So if you take a closer look at the slide, you'll notice that the top heading is talking about the what, and the 3 statements below are answering why is this important to solve this problem. But in this particular case, there was another reason that created an urgency of why we need to solve this problem. And that is that most construction companies now are legally, under new environmental rules, they have to be more transparent, and they need to show that they are being environmentally friendly. So when they are bidding on any project, so you can see here some people call it RFQ, request for a quote, or request for a proposal, RFP. many of the construction jobs are asking, show us ways that you're being more environmentally friendly. So if the construction company can say, you know what, we are reusing material, we're not wasting, rather than getting new material or blowing up mountains to get new material, we're actually reusing existing material, then this could work in their favor. So we use that as a why now slide. Now, here's another example as well that you saw from the earlier video about the energy plant. Now, this was changed a little bit. It was a client project, but I did change some of the details so that it doesn't reveal everything from their project. And so you can see here, if we take a closer look, you can see that at the top, we used the title wisely. We did not just call it problem. We set the tone. What is the problem? And then these 3 statements below are the why. Really, it's the impact. What are the consequences? Why? Now, in this particular case, we could add a bit more details. That's why we added an extra slide. And this is more of the why now slide. Now, you don't necessarily have to use it in all cases, but I did recommend that we create it because in some circumstances, for some audiences, this could set the tone for the context as well. So the context of why now is because of the global goals set by the United Nations. So now I'm not sure if you're familiar, but the United Nations set some global goals for all countries to meet in terms of hunger, in terms of poverty, in terms of environmental and other social solutions. And so now we were showing that, well, why now? Why do we need to address energy now? Because we're showing that without energy, we cannot meet the other goals. So if we are to meet the other goals, we need to address the energy crisis first. So that's how we use this as a why now slide. And then they get to decide if they want to use it for particular cases. If they have room, they can share. If not, they can take it out. Because in some cases, when you're dealing with investors, they might tell you, just send me your top 5 slides or your top 3 slides, or you might only have a minute. So you might not be able to dive into all these details. In other cases, you might have more time to tell your story. So have them as a backup. If you have more time, you can throw these backup slides into your story. So now you get to decide if you want to use one slide or if you want to use more slides. You can see here I added them 3 on the same timeline. Of course, you can combine them all, but if needed, now you understand when you can have them on one slide and when you can have them on more. So as we continue with your problem story in the next few videos, but first I wanted to see if you can remember what is the purpose of the why now slide or the why now segment of your story. Do you remember? Well, if you are talking to customers, you need to show them why this is a good time to buy now, to help them make that decision. And if you're talking to investors, you need to show them why is this a good time to invest now? What are the market trends that demonstrate the need for your solution? Now, your action items for this section really is to create your why now slide. Now, you can decide later if you want to merge it with your problem slide. I recommend you experiment with multiple layouts and formats, and then you get to select based on your audience. So there's no wrong or right way. You can put them on one slide, you can have multiple slides, and then you get to decide based on the audience, how much time you have, and how well they know you as well. So go ahead and get started, and I'll see you in the next video.